Hey there! Let's say your APIs only provide responses in JSON format. You want your APIs to serve only those clients who include the accept application JSON header in their requests, as this means they explicitly understand and want to receive responses in JSON format. So if a client doesn't include this header, you want to send them an error message. Laravel doesn't handle this by default, so we'll need to add this check ourselves. Let's get started. A good way to implement the check is by using a middleware. A middleware lets us apply the check to all APIs or just specific ones. To create the middleware, run the following command: php artisan make middleware, and I'm going to name it force JSON response. All right, now I'm going to open VS Code, go to the force JSON response middleware, and in here we want to check if the client wants JSON. And if the client doesn't want JSON, we will return a simple response, and let's add the following message: unsupported request format, set HTTP header to accept application JSON. And also let's add the HTTP code, which is not acceptable. All right. And now we can use the force JSON response middleware in multiple ways. As an example, I have created a simple post API products API protected by the Sanctum authentication middleware. Now, when I call this API with Postman, it responds with a blank page. It should have responded with an error message instead, saying that I need to authenticate. If I call this API as JSON, then the API responds with the correct response, which is the error message unauthenticated. Now let's apply the force JSON response middleware to the entire API namespace to prevent these situations. Go to Bootstrap folder and open the app.php file. In here, say middleware API and then prepend, because we want our middleware to be called before the authentication middleware. And in here, call our force JSON response middleware. Now let's go back to Postman, call the API without the accept header, and we are getting the correct response: unsupported request format. Now let's add the header back, and we should be getting the unauthenticated error message. Awesome. If you don't want the middleware to be applied on a whole namespace like API namespace, and you want it to be applied only to a route middleware group, then first you have to remove this code that we have added earlier. And then let's go back to our api.php file. In here, I have created a route middleware group with 2 dummy APIs. And now let's add our force JSON response middleware to this API group. Then we will have to clear the route cache. I'm using PHP Artisan Optimize for that because it's also clearing the configs, events, and views, but those don't matter right now. But it's just a convenient way to delete caching framework, Bootstrap configuration, and other metadata. All right, now we can use Postman to hit the APIs once again, but without the accept header. So we are getting the same error. Let's also call the customers API. All right, now let's add the header and see that we are getting the JSON response as we should. Or if you want to use the middleware only for one specific API, then it would look like this. Let's delete the route middleware group and let's apply the middleware only to the product API. Press save. We have to run PHP artisan optimize to clear the routes cache once again. Then let's go to Postman and let's hit it without the accept header. We are getting the unsupported request format response. Awesome. Now let's hit it with accept header. And we are now getting the JSON response. All right, that was it. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out the other Laravel tutorials from this channel. Wishing you a wonderful day, and I look forward to catching you in the next one.